Welcome back to the 25 Days of Flows, the Power Automate Advent Calendar. Today is a special day for admins. We're going to have two and possibly three flows that are dedicated to people who administer flows and to flow makers. Today is going to be a flow that can be used by any flow maker who's looking to kind of organize the flows that they are handling or keep a track of the flows they're handling. We're going to introduce a new connector for that. But what we're going to end up with today is a weekly list of current premium connectors. And so every week, Flo is going to go find out what are the premium connectors in the environment that you work in, and it will send you a weekly list of those connectors via email. Okay? Now, to talk about the connectors we'll be using the Flow Management connector and the Outlook Office 365 connector. Both of these connectors are standard, but we've already used Outlook Office 365, so we know about sending emails and what's possible with events and things like that. But Flow Management is a very special connector that can give you visibility into what's happening across your flows. And there are three connectors that you really need to know about if you are an administrator. Let's pop over to Flow to look at these. So I'm going to open up Flow and I'm going to create a scheduled flow because this is going to be a weekly list of premium connectors. We're going to do this every week on Friday, so this will start tomorrow. So I will change the date to tomorrow and I will change the time to 6 a.m. Notice that my clicks in here don't change anything else. So it's a little bit different than how you set up a reoccurring event in Outlook, right? You have to pay attention to what day is selected. So read down here and then pick your start date and your start time as well, okay? And now I'm going to create this and the trigger is ready for me. So I have a reoccurrence trigger and I have an understandable title, and so we're ready to go. Now, let's get into these admin connectors. So let me just show you the most important three, and then we'll talk about each one before the 25 days of flows are over. So there's the Power Apps for admins, the Power Platform for admins, and Microsoft Flow for admins. These are all admin connectors, these three, and you need to either be an environmental admin or a tenant admin to really get value from them. But any Flow user can get benefit from the Flow Management connector. This connector is one that can help you to have a good vision of how your flows are running and kind of keep track of what's going on with your flows. You can even cause things to happen based on conditions, such as look at all the actions that we have here. We have actions like turn on flow, turn off flow, update flow definition, list flows as an admin, list flow owners. So this is very helpful on an environmental level because you notice they all basically say for a given environment. If you wanted to go across multiple environments, you would want to use one of the admin connectors. All right, so this is a page I will put down in the description, and then whatever it is that you want to do, like in this case, I'm going to be doing list connectors, and it tells me, things I need to know about listing the connectors. I will also give you the full blog about the admin connectors for the Power Platform so that you can look at that. Those of you that are environmental admins or tenant admins, you may also want to get very familiar with our Center of Excellence Starter Kit, which is all about administration and adoption. Okay, so let's go back to Flow. And today what we're going to do is list connectors. Remember that the connector is the API. It's the thing that you're going to be sending requests to and getting responses back from. You create your own connection to it every time you initiate an action, and that makes an API call each time you make an action that's calling or receiving information from that connector. So this is all about the connector, not the connections. We'll talk about that also around day 22, I believe. So you'll get to know how to list the connections and how to replace connections, which if you do that in a flow, it's a little bit less time consuming than doing it like over here, right? So here's my connection, but this is the connector, all right? Now, again, flow management thinks about the environment, and it doesn't, so what I configure this to be doesn't have to be the environment I'm in, but I do need to specify what environment am I interested in. Um, and it will list the connectors for that environment. Again, if I want to cross environment, now I need one of the admin connectors. Okay, so let's pick an environment that doesn't have so many connectors to see. Let's try this one here. I'm going to save, and then we're going to just run this in test mode so that you can see what comes back from this request. All right, so now it's going to run. It's going to run very quickly, by the way. These are fast running flows. 1 second. And then you'll notice it gives me the environment GUID. I believed I picked CDS. So if I go here and choose CDS, A989 should be the beginning of and there it is. You see how, well, you actually don't see my URL. Okay, so up here, you can see that it starts with that. So this is the name of this environment from a GUID perspective, okay? So that comes out in the flow. Just gonna go back. Okay, so let's go back and get our flow. Yeah, all right. So I'm gonna go here back to the run. I do wanna look at this run. Okay, so now in this case, so you can see that this can be variable. It really can. So right now, I just got the name of the environment. A minute ago, we got the GUID of the environment. But guess what? To flow, it's the same thing anyway, right? So this is just making it easier for you to understand. Now, apparently, there's enough data that it's not going to put it right here. So a couple of things I can do to get it. To kind of get an idea of what I'm getting back. I'm going to show you both ways. So way number one, which I find to be the easiest way, is I go in here and I create something like an HTML or a CSV file. So let's do CSV because we can actually attach that to the email. So we'll be killing two birds with one stone. Well, we don't want to kill any birds, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to add the list connectors right there. And then here I can, if I do custom, now I can just go and look at all the available fields. Okay, and so let's get curious. So body I know has a lot in it, just because most connectors, the body has more than one thing. Same thing with value and properties. So I'm going to take some of these other things, maybe the created time, just click in there, it'll give me a new line. Display name, just click in there, it'll give me a new line. Is this a custom API? I like that one, okay? The connector name, the connector tier, and the connector display. Did we get that? Yes, we did. So here we have display name. So let's move this around a little bit. So I want name first because name is usually a GUID, right? That's that GUID, similar to the GUID we saw for environment. Then we have display name. Notice if I hover on these, even though they're truncated there, I can still read what it is, this display name. This one is whether or not it's a custom API. I don't need this anymore, so I can get rid of this row right here. And then here's the tier. All right, so let's see what these give us back, and then you'll be able to figure out what we need to do, I bet. So what was this? Created. And then this last one is tier. Okay, now let's test this. Well, actually, I'm going to add an HTML table. You know why? Because CSV is actually comma delimited. I mean, comma separated values. So the values are separated by commas, but it's not the easiest to read. So might as well do both. I like to remind people that you can. And basically, I'm just going to use this as a reminder down here. I'm going to connector name, click collector's display name, click repetition for emphasis, right? We don't forget created, click, and then tier. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to give this a name. Hope that thing up at the top goes away. Display name, and then created, and then tier. Okay, anytime you want to remove something, just hit the X and then click, it'll give you a new line. All right, so let's test this. Now we're going to have both. We're going to have HTML table that we're just going to use to look at, and then we'll have a CSV table for our email. Okay, again, it's going to run. These usually run fairly quickly. If I open up HTML table, you can actually see these values a lot easier than you can if you're not like a specialist in JSON. This is a really easy way to do this, and you can put as many columns as you want in there to kind of review what you get out of it. I do like to use custom versus automated because automated is not as easy to read. Okay, so here's my internal names for these connectors. Here's my display name for these connectors. You can see we have everything. And we all know that Office 365 users is not premium, neither is SharePoint. So we've got more than what we're looking for here, but at least we can see it clearly. The start date, you've got the 4-digit year, 2-digit month, and it depends on where you live. This may change. No, I think it's the same everywhere. 4-digit year, 2-digit month, and 2-digit day, and then the T is a time in UTC, I believe, and the seconds as you go across here. And then notice is the one that we really want, I think. Look at that. We can see standard, premium, and we would be able to see custom if there was such a thing in this tenant. There isn't any, right? So, and I believe, let's add the actual flag for custom connector. So when I zoom too much, I get my tags like this. So I might as well let you see how you work with them like this. So what I want in this box, I just click see more. See if I see it here. Give me a second. This one. So this one is connector is custom API. So that's going to be true or false. So this will actually be able to let you know if you have people who have created and published custom APIs, you'll see that as well. Okay, so now that we know this, the problem is that we're getting more than we need back because everything is in there. So how do we get this to be only, how do we get these to only show us premium? Well, we're going to add a filter array right after getting the connectors. We've done a couple of different kinds of things for this. We've done conditions, we've done trigger conditions, and so now we're going to use a filter array, which is going to filter that array, the list connectors. All right, and then I'm going to zoom out so you can see this probably normally. And then in my filter array on this side, because we saw the type, whether it was standard or premium in the column called connector tier, we're going to choose that, and then we're going to type premium over here. Now, all we're going to do to adjust our table, and I don't need the HTML table anymore. I only need the CSV table. So I'm going to remove what's in here because those tokens reflect everything. I only want the CSV that has the result of the filter array. So I'm going to go into here and put the body of the filter array there. And then when I'm using my dynamic content, I'm only looking for content under filter array. So the name is going to be connector name. The display name is connector display name. The created is the connection created time. Notice that says connection created time. So the first time the connection was made. And then tier is the connector tier, which is going to tell us Premier Standard. We don't even need this because we've already pre-filtered, but at least it's a validation. Did we also have, is it custom API? So custom API, and then over here, we're going to do custom API. And it's a Boolean, right? It's true or false. Okay, so now we have everything we need for our weekly report. Let's go ahead and create the email. And we're going to use Office 365. Again, I recommend if you're working in Office 365, try to use the connectors that are related to it. It just makes authentication easier and prevents data leakage. So I'm going to move to, send an email is usually at the top. And so I'm going to click send an email. And then who am I going to send this to? I'm actually going to send it to a team. So here I have my GPM team. If I right click on this, I can get the email address for this team. So I'm actually going to use the team's email address in order to send all my GPMs this weekly report. So I'm not going to use a people picker here because this will give me people, individuals. I'm going to go over here and toggle into what's called basic mode. And now I can just paste that email here. And so I tried to copy just the email and I didn't succeed. Okay, so now that email is who this is going to. And now I'm going to type weekly premium connector report. Okay, and the attached report shows the current connectors which are premium, however you want to say that. Thank you. Now, one of the reasons why I'm doing an attachment, because I could also put the HTML table output here, but I'm doing an attachment because my team likes to take the data and manipulate it. So maybe they want to make a pivot chart or something like that, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just going to call this premium connectors, and I'm going to tack on to the name the environment name. And so in this case, the environment is CDS, all right? And then that's the name of the file. I'm going to do .csv because it's a CSV file. And then the action that we created it with has an output, and that's the actual file. I can set the importance here, and then I'm ready to fully test this. Okay, so let's fully test it. I am just running a test, which means it's ignoring the schedule. It's letting me just do it now, right? But then if I leave this flow on, it will actually do this report again tomorrow morning. Now, I'm fortunate in that there's only 2 people in that team. You would not want to test with your team email address. You would test with your own, and then the last thing you do is change it to your team email address. So now if we go there, you'll see that it just posted. You can even download the original email, but it's posted directly on the GPM's team site, and it's actually uploaded to the teams in the files, which is awesome. And they can open it on their computer, so they can download it, and then they can open it, or they can read it right there. They can actually work on it right there. But what I was saying before is that some people like to do pivot tables and such. And I'll show you one thing that you can do that you might want to think about. And it was the reason why I added both the display name and so if I make this a table, I'm just going to format this as a table and say OK. Now I can pivot this report. And so I can pivot it on anything I want. Let's say I want to pivot it on display name. Let's put this here, right? And then I'm going to actually count this. And so I've created a report, and this is not so useful. But here's one thing I have done that you might find interesting. On the internal name, you can do groupings. Okay, so for instance, everything that starts with shared Azure, you can put that into one bar chart by saying contains shared underscore Azure. So you can start to group things that are related, shared underscore cloud. And depending on how you want to do your report, shared underscore dynamics, you can start to group things and then drill down into them. So I do like giving people CSV files so that if they're like me, they can manipulate the data and kind of present it in different ways. But you could have definitely added an HTML table and it would have gone just as well. So thank you so much for being here on the, what is this, the 12th day of the 25 days of flows. You'll have in the description the references as well as where you can download this flow. And look forward to later on in the series, we'll talk more about admin capabilities. Wishing you a happy holiday, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow for day 13 of the 25 Days of Flows, the Power Automate Advent Calendar.